Right friends, welcome back to newspaper editorial discussion. This is 6th January. You are on live with Learning Space, and now we are going to deliberate on 5 issues, and at 12:30 hours we are going to deliberate on yesterday's newspaper editorials. And today, if you look at the first one, this is with regard to mid-term referendum. Then one article in the Indian Express, that is let the budget be. So, these two articles we are going to deliberate. I am not going into the political issues, and I am going to put forth the factual information, that is one part. And the second thing is, what is the election commission, what are constitutional bodies, and similarly I would like to go into the aspect of what is meant by model code of conduct. These things we are going to deliberate. And there is editorial mid-term referendum. What is meant by referendum? Referendum means, please look into this slide. Referendum is basically in some countries, not in our country. It is not in vogue in our country, but here why the article mentioned it as mid-term referendum means central government recently completed 2.5 years. All of you are familiar with the tenure. 5 years is the tenure for state assemblies as well as Lok Sabha. So, 2.5 years of tenure is completed. So, now the election results in these 5 states can be construed as referendum of the working of the central government. That is the meaning of referendum. The literal meaning of referendum is people asked to give their opinion to decide an important political or social question. This is very important. People are asked to find out about a political or social question, and various referendums were held in recent times. All of you are familiar with this Brexit. The second one is Italy referendum, which the Prime Minister lost, and at the same time Greece referendum in the year 2015. So, these are all examples of referendums, and this election is just construed as a referendum on the central government. It is not true literal sense, but it is conveying that meaning or sense. And in the last sentence in the article, it was stated that it will have reverberations at the central government or at the center level. If the outcome of these result, that means outcome of the result in these 5 states makes things seem to shake at the central government. So, that is the meaning of reverberations. This word is also quite frequently used. And now let us look at phase-wise elections. This is just facts and figures. This is factual information. 403 seats in Uttar Pradesh, 7 phases. Manipur, northeastern state, 2 phases, and remaining 3 states single phase, and counting will be held on March 11. Here one important aspect is the expenditure limit for each candidate. The expenditure limit in big states is 28 lakhs, and if you look at a small state like Manipur or Goa, it is 20 lakhs. So, the expenditure limit is also very important, assembly seats are also very important, and UP is going to have 7 phase poll, right. Now, if you look at election commission has got the mandate to conduct elections based on article 324 of the constitution. This is one important aspect. That is, based on article 324 of the constitution, election commission got its mandate to conduct elections, and one chief election commissioner, and at present 2 election commissioners are there. So, if someone talks about election commission of India, it is constitutional body, please do not forget. And one important aspect you should have in your mind, the role of election commission is different, state election commissions are different. Listen carefully, the role of the election commission is to conduct elections to president, vice president of the country, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, or you can say parliament, at the same time member of legislative assembly or assembly constituencies, at the same time legislative councils wherever they are in existence. Out of the 29 states, if I am not wrong, legislative councils are there only in 7 states. So, legislative councils elections, these are all conducted by election commission. Election commission gets this from 324 of the article. And another important aspect is State Election Commission. This bifurcation is very, very important. State Election Commission got its mandate based on 73rd as well as 74th constitutional amendments, which gave powers to local bodies. Very important, State Election Commission has got its powers to conduct elections to local bodies. What is meant by local bodies? Local bodies means panchayats, Jilla Parishads, Panchayat Samitis. In some states they are called mandals, then municipal areas or municipalities, corporations. These are all called local bodies, and the mandate to conduct elections to these local bodies emanates from 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments, and subsequently these state election commissions are established, and this is as per 73rd and 74th constitution amendment. Please remember, so if someone talks about panchayats, municipalities, corporations, this is basically these are local bodies, and the power to conduct elections is vested with the election commission if you look at the aspects which I have listed here. Other important aspect, constitutional body, statutory body, executive body. These three you frequently come across. Constitutional body is basically as per the constitutional provisions. This is enshrined in the constitution. In one or the other article, it is enshrined in the constitution. So, that is constitutional body. If you want examples of constitutional bodies, Election Commission, then Finance Commission. All of you are familiar with the recent Finance Commission report, which increased from 32% to 42% devolution of taxes to states. At the same time, National Commission for Scheduled Castes, National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, this is one important aspect. This is constitutional bodies, these are constitutional bodies, and please do not forget, previously there was only one constitutional body for National Commission for Scheduled Castes and Tribes, but subsequently it was bifurcated based on 89th Constitution Amendment, if I am not wrong. So, please do not forget, this National Commission for SCs, STs, these are all constitutional bodies. Similarly, one important aspect you should not forget is GST Council headed by the Union Finance Minister is a constitutional body. This came into existence in 2016. So, there is every possibility someone may ask you whether GST Council is constitutional body or statutory body. What is meant by statutory body? Statutory body means these are the bodies created as an act of parliament. Based on Parliament Act, these are created. National Green Tribunal created somewhere around 2010, RBI, then National Commission for Women, then National Commission for Backward Classes. Here important bifurcation is National Commission for Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes are constitutional bodies, whereas National Commission for Women and National Commission for Backward Classes, these two are statutory bodies. And another important aspect during the year 2016 is Aadhaar has got statutory status. So, here one important aspect is about Aadhaar, and the other one is with regard to GST Council. So, these two things please do not forget. And executive body, someone may ask you about Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog came into existence as executive body, that is very important, and Law Commission is executive body. It is created by just executive order. It can be created, it can be dismantled as and when they want. And a recent example is dismantling of a planning commission. As planning commission was executive body, it was dismantled just like that. So, such fate may happen to either Niti Aayog or some other organization when government changes. And if government changes, only the statutory bodies can be modified with the help of Act of Parliament, right. So, I discussed more than required at this juncture. Then Model Code of Conduct. This also frequently comes into picture, and several parties are voicing their concern that budget is to be postponed. Why budget is to be postponed? Because some parties are expressing that as 5 state elections are going to be held, in view of model code of conduct which came into force, the union budget is to be postponed, and the article in Indian Express clearly stated that there is no need for postponing the budget because state elections are continuous process. There are 29 states in Indian Union and 3-4 states every year elections are being held. So, that is the viewpoint of Indian Express, and I have given various points pertaining to model code of conduct. What is meant by model code of conduct? It is basically set of guidelines by election commission, just election commission guidelines, basically to ensure free and fair elections, nothing more than that. And there is a comment that people are not taking seriously model code of conduct. Several senior politicians are also indicted for violation of model code of conduct, and that is being debated widely. And I have given why this model code of conduct is important, and activities that create mutual hatred because of religious as well as linguistic as well as caste based tensions are to be avoided, right. So, this is about model code of conduct. And another important aspect is simultaneous polls. As 3-4 state elections are coming every year, and there is a viewpoint that simultaneous polls is the best option, and I discussed threadbare in this capsule number 3 of 44th week 2016, which is available in the YouTube. Please go to the playlists and view this capsule. This is very important, and I am winding up this discussion with this subsequent to the article of the Hindu. So, this assumed a lot of significance. You can get a question as far as the case in point for simultaneous polls. Please view this capsule. I have given positives as well as negatives, right. So, let us move on to the next one. Being factual in post-truth era. This is another editorial, and please do not forget, during the first day of our editorial discussion, we discussed about post-truth. What is the meaning of post-truth? Post-truth means decisions not based on objective facts. Objective facts. Here, objective facts are not considered. Reality is not considered. Actual substance is not considered. Gossip is considered. And that is the meaning of post-truth. So, the decisions based on emotions and personal belief. Emotions prevails here. So, this is post-truth era. We discussed Brexit as well as victory of Donald Trump are partially due to post-truth era. Then this article is with regard to in the era of post-truth, fake news are too dangerous. And recently there were several fake news. The first fake news, please read here. Israel would use nuclear weapons against Pakistan if it sent ground troops to Syria. If ground troops are sent to Syria, Israel will use nuclear weapons against Pakistan. And similarly, in our country in recent times, GPS tracking chip embedded in rupees 2000 note. Please look into this note, rupees 2000 note, some chip is embedded. So, these are the fake news. And what is the meaning of fake news? Fake news is nothing but deliberate creation of factually incorrect content to mislead people for some gain. Please go through this. It is deliberate creation of factually incorrect content to mislead people for some gain. And if you go ahead, reasons for fake news. What are the main reasons? Nowadays we are facing this problem of fake news. The first one is social media. The main problem is social media like Twitter, Facebook, and at the same time nowadays the concept of viral. That concept is the buzzword in youth today. They are not differentiating between gossip and substance. That is the main reason. Second reason is internet. Third one is raised expectations of real time news. Then the next one is news became just like serials or soap operas. That means just like serials, if you look at the serials of any language, they are just like family dramas, and nowadays news became just like serials or soap operas. Then competition among websites, they are competing for news. One news item will come to you and immediately you will click. That is the temptation of clickbait. So, these are all the reasons for this fake news, proliferation of fake news. And alarm bells ringing. What is the meaning of this? It indicates worry because it is a sign that there may be a problem. One word which appeared at the end of the editorial, that it kept alarm bells ringing across nations. What is the meaning of alarm bells ringing? It indicates worry because it is a sign that there may be a problem, right. So, this is all about this fake news, and now there are two aspects. One is government can intervene. The second one is social media should exercise restraint. There are two options. The best option is social media should follow self-regulatory mechanism. That means the sites, social sites or organizations must follow self-regulatory mechanism, especially this is important in the era of post-truth. And the other side is governments can also control, but when governments control, what will happen? It may lead to the suppression of freedom of expression. So, it may lead to, or it may muzzle opinion and speech. This is the biggest problem. So, instead of governments to control, social media organizations as well as news sites should exercise restraint. So, that is the meaning of this editorial today. So, this post-truth as well as this fake news as well as this social media, they are going to be the buzzwords in 2017 also, please do not forget. If you look at the fourth article, reading between the lines, this we deliberated on the first day. This is with regard to 4-3 majority judgment, and here I am not taking much time on this article because we deliberated pros and cons and 4-3 judgment, what is majority view, what is minority view, we deliberated in detail a few days ago, and now at this juncture it is not required to go in detail, but a few points which came out of this I am explaining. The first one is Keshwananda Bharati judgment. The article is just comparing this 4-3 judgment with regard to 123(3) of this Representation of People Act of 1951. He is comparing this judgment with the Keshwananda Bharati case. Keshwananda Bharati case belongs to 1973. The 7-6 judgment finally felt that the basic structure of the constitution is supreme. No one can alter the basic structure of the constitution, and basic structure of the constitution doctrine, that is what is came to be known as. And when you look at the present 4-3 judgment, we discussed various aspects, and this case is Abhiram Singh versus C.D. Chen. We have not dealt this issue that day, that is why I put forth this point. This is Abhiram Singh versus C.D. Chen, and we deliberated the interpretation of his. Previously, prior to this judgment, if I ask votes in the name of I am Christian, please vote for me, I am Muslim, please vote for me, I am Hindu, please vote for me, it was wrong. But now, as per this 4-3 judgment, you cannot ask votes based on religion, language or caste. So, this is the crux of this 4-3 judgment, and we deliberated what is the majority view. At the same time, there are 8 points in majority view I have taken in that lecture. I listed here once again for your review process, and the minority judgment, that also we have deliberated that day. I am not going into that aspect, and 9 points we have taken from minority judgment, please view that. And finally, the author says that future challenges in court to election victories based on identity politics will now walk the fine line. That means, in future election victories will be challenged, and it is a fine line, and it is the real challenge for the courts to interpret whether the candidate's appeal is in tune with Supreme Court majority judgment or not. So, it is going to be challenge for the courts in future. Then look at the last one, the Trump challenge to Antonio Guterres. This is very important article, and nowadays the existence of United Nations, people are considering that United Nations is as good as dead. The existence of United Nations is in question nowadays. Under these circumstances, let us look at the Secretary General. Antonio Guterres became the 9th Secretary General. 2-3 important aspects, do not forget. First Secretary General was from Norway, Trygve Lie. 8th Ban Ki-moon from South Korea. He was here for 10 years. Maximum period is 2 terms only. Please do not forget. Any Secretary General can be for a maximum period of 10 years or 2 terms. And Antonio Guterres from Portugal. He was the former Prime Minister of Portugal, and he became Secretary General for 5-year term. And if you look at the UN Secretary General, what is the purpose of the establishment of United Nations? United Nations was established subsequent to Second World War, and its headquarters in New York. What is the purpose of United Nations? Purpose of United Nations is to prevent Third World War. Third World War has not occurred, but more than that, lot of turmoil is in place across the world. Several countries are suffering, but United Nations is not doing anything. And here, he will be the head of United Nations Secretariat, and I have given here former Portugal Prime Minister replaced Ban Ki-moon, and first Secretary General Trygve Lie, Ban Ki-moon 8th Secretary General, then 9th is now Antonio Guterres of Portugal. And important points, let us come back to the discussion. Important point is Donald Trump, the president elect, stated that it is nothing but a club. He just compared the United Nations to the theory that it is nothing but a club. People, why do the people go to the club? Just to chit chat. So, he compared United Nations to club, and it assumed a lot of significance because of 2 reasons. 22% of the contribution for budget is by United States of America. Total 2 years budget is $6 billion. Here one word is there, that is biennium. Biennium means 2 years. Biannual means 6 months. Please differentiate. Biannual, 2 times in a year, that means once in 6 months. Biennium, the spelling is Biennium. Biennium means 2 years, and the budget is $6 billion of United Nations. 22% of budget comes from United States of America, and for peacekeeping operations, United Nations peacekeeping operations are there in several countries, and the peacekeeping budget is $8 billion. It is a 28% contribution from USA, 22% in the budget, 28% contribution from USA in peacekeeping operations. And Trump calls climate change pact a hoax. He does not believe in climate change, and only one success of United Nations is climate change. Under these circumstances, Donald Trump is going to take charge on 20th of January. And if you look at United Nations and its actions in recent times, climate change, it is of course a real success, but here also there is one catch. What is the catch? Advanced countries have to contribute not only technology, free access to technology of renewable energies. Second one is $100 billion for climate fund, that is from 2020. These 2 things, they are doubtful. $100 billion is really doubtful, and free access to technology, that is another aspect. Anyhow, as on date, climate change pact of Paris Pact, or you can say Paris Pact, which came into force in November 2016, is a real success. if you look at Syria, the biggest failure of United Nations is Syria. Now without United Nations and United States of America, Syria, Turkey and Russia announced ceasefire. That indicates that the role of United Nations is entirely utter failure as far as Syria is concerned. Please look into this map. This is Syria. And if you look at refugee crisis in Europe, some countries have taken lakhs of refugees just like Germany, and some countries created fencing, border fencing, and United Nations has not done anything. Then North Korea nuclear tests. Please look into this. North Korea. North Korea conducted nuclear test. Only China can ask North Korea to stop, but no one is asking China to tell North Korea to stop nuclear tests. Then if you look at South Sudan, South Sudan is into the crisis, and experts feel that at any moment South Sudan may go into civil war, because Noyer and Dinka, two ethnic groups are at loggerheads. So South Sudan, almost a civil war is going to take place if better sense does not prevail in 2017. And the next one is Yemen. All of you are familiar with Yemen. Yemen crisis is going on, and one side supported by Saudi Arabia and Houthi rebels are supported by Iran. Here also Shia Sunni rivalry is going on. What United Nations is doing? So these are all $1,000,000 questions, and if you look at other aspects, peacekeeping operations across the world, they are somewhat success, somewhat failure, because that is considered as not transparent. Nuclear deal with Iran, that is not entirely due to United Nations. There is a lot of say of other countries than United Nations. So real success is only climate change, nothing else. So under these circumstances, a real question arises, is there a need for United Nations with such huge budget, right? So let us move on, and problems in United Nations. Political appointments, and in general they are not transparent. Then UN peacekeeping operations are opaque, they are not transparent, and not much effort to solve problems pertaining to the world. So here two issues. The track record of United Nations is not satisfactory. At the same time, Donald Trump victory in USA, these two you should not divide and see. They have to see in the overall perspective of the future of United Nations. And the last one, somebody may ask you a question. The existence of United Nations is not felt amid the state of gloom in several countries. Several countries are suffering, but the presence of United Nations is not felt. Elaborate your answer, or is there any merit in this statement? So this aspect is being discussed for several years in fact, and now the world came to such a stage that United Nations is almost becoming irrelevant with such huge budgets, right? So this question you should be in a position to answer, and I have put forth all the points whatever are written in this article, and more than that I put forth some other points also. So we discussed 3-4 aspects of today's newspaper, and with this let us conclude this newspaper editorial discussion. And at 12:30 hours today, we will have discussion of yesterday's articles, and there are 2-3 important articles are there, and we are going to deliberate on them. One is pertaining to the global consensus on terrorism, that is very, very important. And the second important aspect is China's aggressive postures in recent times, right? How the world is viewing these aspects. These two things we are going to deliberate in yesterday's newspaper, and with this let us conclude this newspaper editorial discussion of 6th January. 4 articles are from The Hindu, 1 from Indian Express, and let us meet once again at 12:30 p.m. to look at various important aspects of yesterday's newspaper. Right friends, with this let us conclude. Have a nice day. Thank you.